Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Down the Tee Tennis Podcast. We're back to review the Indian Wells Masters, the ATP Masters 1000, WTA Masters 1000 singles tournaments. We're also going to cover the biggest news as we're recording here towards the end of March, and also look ahead to the Miami Open, which has just got underway. So starting with Indian Wells, so Taylor Fritz win his first Masters 1000 title, beating Rafael Nadal in a really entertaining final to conclude a really entertaining tournament on the men's side, which will come on to all the storylines from that. Fantastic achievement for Fritz. And we also had Iga Swiatek win the WTA title, a second straight WTA 1000 title after Doha, beating Maria Sakkari in the women's final. So we're going to go through both the tournaments. It was certainly an event I enjoyed, played over about the 10 days, the 7 rounds for the players who are on the seeds. As we were talking about just before we started, it's got more the feeling of a Grand Slam than a Masters 1000 event, a bit like Miami, Indian Wells. So what did you make of the tournament overall, Kieran? How much do you enjoy Indian Wells?
Yeah, I always enjoy Indian Wells. I do think it is one of the jewels in the crown of the ATP Tour, to be honest, and it is a bit like what you've said. The fact it's a bigger draw. It's 7 rounds, although your seeds don't play the first one. So you know that's. I mean, a seven full rounds of best of 5 is a slam on the men's side. So it's a lot closer to the slam. You know, 7 a partial round and then 6 full rounds of best of 3. And I think a key thing is the players really enjoy it as well. I think they enjoy the environment around there. You know, tends to be good weather in the sun in California. I think the facility is really nice. There's this big open grassy area, I think, where a lot of the players play football. You always get clips of tennis players playing football around the time Indian Wells is on. And I do like seeing that personally. As a big tennis and football fan, I like seeing what Matteo Berrettini is like kicking a ball about. So yeah, it's a fantastic tournament. And I mean, a huge one this year for a Californian kid to win the men's singles in California. I think it's been a great story.
Absolutely, as you mentioned, the home champion in Fritz, and I think definitely a surprising victory for me. I mean, he has been a player we've definitely seen big improvements from at the start of this year, and also at the back end of last season. He definitely put together some really good results, and from whenever I've watched him, he's definitely looked like a much improved player. But he'd only won one ATP title before this event, so it was pretty surprising to see him convert that great form, I suppose, into a title on one of the biggest stages in a Masters 1000 title. So what did you make of Taylor Fritz's run? How impressive he's been? Well, as we say in recent months, but to win this title, beating Rafael Nadal in the final, overall, what did you make of Fritz?
I think Taylor Fritz has been knocking on the door for quite a while now. He hasn't quite had the breakthrough of actually going on and winning something big, but he's had strong runs. I think he even had a few last year. Maybe he had a bit less consistency last year, but he took Djokovic all the way in Australia, although Djokovic was struggling with some kind of injury that match, although he did go on to win the tournament, so we don't know just how much he was struggling with injury. And yeah, I think I'm very impressed with him as a player. I used to think of him like he doesn't come across as a 6'5" player for me, and I think we see a lot about this generation where the big guys are also really good movers, which the sweet spot in the past have a good balance between the natural power and still not losing the characteristics of quick movement, good agility. Is kind of like your 6'1" to 6'3", where all of the top tennis players seem to be, but nowadays you're 6'5", 6'6" guys that move so well. And I always actually remember him being a bit of a grafter. I thought he's been a defensive player in the past when I've watched him, but he's changed recently. He's much more attacking. He takes a match by the scruff of the neck. He's not afraid to try and go for something big. But when he needs to dig in and graft, he's capable of doing that as well, because he used to do that a little bit more. So he's got a lot of tools there, and I don't know just how high he can rise, but certainly he had an impressive tournament, and he's maybe one to look out for as someone that could have a massive breakthrough this year.
Absolutely. I mean, you wouldn't rule it out after this. 'Cause, yeah, I was a bit surprised, winning a title of this size, despite what I said about seeing how well he's played, the improvements he's made in the last few months. But as you say, definitely, I think the key has been like the greater aggression. I mean, playing like a player of his height, I think 6'5". I mean, he has a big serve. I mean, he's really been using that big forehand as well, but also has he can do a lot of damage with the backhand side, which isn't the case for necessarily a lot of players. It can be a solid shot, but it's a real weapon for him. So he's got kind of he can do damage in multiple ways, kind of off every stroke. So I mean, he really saw that here. He obviously made the semi-finals in Indian Wells last year as well. So he seems to love the conditions here. And I agree, he could definitely do some real damage this year. But I mean, just with the improvements he's made in a fairly short period of time, he could be a contender, definitely on hard courts and maybe even grass. Generally on the quicker surfaces, which I mean, Indian Wells isn't a particularly quick court, but I'm going to be really interested to see how he goes for the rest of the year. So what did you make of the final, being Rafael Nadal to win the title? I mean, it was a match where Fritz was apparently coming in with an ankle injury. Nadal, obviously, we know now, had suffered the fractured rib in his semi-final win over Alcaraz, which we can also come on. It was a fantastic match. What did you make of that? It was kind of a strange final, but still entertaining, I thought.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I've noticed a lot of the conversation online has been around, I'd love to see that match with both players fit. And I definitely would have done, but it did make for a really interesting match. I think from the first point, we saw how much Fritz wanted it and how much Rafa was trying to graft through his discomfort. Obviously, Fritz did come in with an ankle injury, and that looked quite bad ahead of the match, but he had it strapped up, and I don't know if he's had some painkillers that were working wonderfully, because he did seem to deal with the discomfort a lot better than Rafa. Rafa, I think he was struggling to swing through his strokes, especially on the forehand side, which was difficult to see, but it did get it a bit more consistent in the second set, at least getting that forehand in play, maybe not with the venom that he usually does, but just keeping it in play a bit more. And the second set was such an interesting game of tennis. I think after the first set, I said to my dad who I was watching it with, if I was Rafa right now, I'd try and just get him moving. I'd try and change the direction of the rally a lot more and just test out that ankle and see if it holds up to the pressure. And I think Rafa did try and do that. He did try and move Fritz around the court and see just how much that ankle was working. But Fritz was just determined. He was ready to play through every pain barrier he had. I mean, you've got to say the same for Rafa as well. To be out for 4 to 6 weeks, it's clearly something not right, a stress fracture apparently. And he did give it everything in that second set. I think he could have won that second set as well. A shot that he missed at, was it 5-4 in the tiebreak? Something like that. We're talking about his struggle to swing through shots, but it was a ball that was bouncing high. He didn't really need to swing through it much. He just needed to put it away, and it was an uncharacteristic miss. But a third set there I don't even know what would have witnessed. It would have just been two players digging absolutely deep. But in the end, I think Fritz is a fully deserved winner. He played on with his injury, dealt with his injury well, and he put Rafa under some real pressure from the first point. He dug deep and chased down the ball. Rafa ended up winning that point, but he just continued like that, and his attacking shots as well. Getting the big forehand in play, decent on the backhand side as well, just keeping Nadal moving about at the back of the court and not really giving Rafa much of a platform to try and play through his injury.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was really impressed by Fritz's performance. I totally agree with what he said. I mean, I thought he dealt with the situation really well. Obviously, been in the biggest match of his career, playing against Nadal, and also, not easy knowing that. I mean, as I think you would have seen pretty early on, that Nadal wasn't right. I mean, he really struggled in the first set. Nadal, I mean, it's not easy to deal with that. I think there's a lot of players that would have lost that match, but I was really impressed by Fritz's performances. As you say, he stayed aggressive. And even in the second set where Rafa really did improve and tested him, as you said, he had a lot of chances. I think he was up a break early on, Nadal, and then I think he had several break points after that. Then as you mentioned, having the lead in the tie break, I think it was at 5-4 where he missed that drive volley. I mean, was a big moment, definitely. Because I mean, as you say, anything could have happened in that final set. I would probably have even backed Nadal. I mean, it was an unbelievable effort, I thought, from Nadal to really, the way he fought in the second set. I mean, and as you say, extended the points, made Fritz work for everything, used the slice backhand a lot. And I mean, I think there's a one point showing the average rally length on Fritz's serve in a fairly long game was 10 shots. I mean, it was unbelievable how hard Nadal made him work despite suffering himself. So it was, yeah, I really enjoyed the final. It was a great match. As you say, Fritz definitely a deserved winner. I mean, he played fantastically well under pressure to save those break points in the second set, and then also in the tie break to come from behind and close it out, because it really would have got tough against Nadal in the third set. So a fantastic win for Fritz. Really can't praise him enough for how well he delivered under pressure in the final, and also the tournament in general. Being Rublev in a tight semi-final was a tough match. And I think in the fourth round against Alex de Minaur, came through 7-5 in the third set tiebreak as well. Was a close one, and he's got a fantastic record in deciding set tiebreaks. So massively impressed by Fritz, and looking forward to seeing him. Might not play in Miami. There's been some suggestions with the injury, but yeah, he might just not risk it. But it's going to be really exciting. He's on the brink of the top 10 now. So kind of staying with Nadal, what did you make of his tournament as a whole? He had some tough matches pretty much all the way through, but managed to battle through. I think, for me, I don't think we really saw his best tennis, probably up until the semi-final against Alcaraz, where he picked up the injury late on in that match. But I mean, he had some really tough battles and fought through them, starting with his first match against Seb Korda, where he came from 5-2 and a double breakdown in the third set. I mean, that was an unbelievable escape.
Yeah, I mean, it's typical of Rafa. You know, he has got that attitude of, you know, no match is over until match points converted, and he'll never let himself dip too far mentally. He'll always see a way back into every match. A bit of a choke maybe from Seb Korda. I hate to say it, but I mean, he did so fantastically well to turn the match around after losing the first set. He dominated the second set, and you know, he dominated most of the third set as well. Well, the start of the third set for definite. But I don't know. I think it was just a clear sign of just tension. He's almost over the line. He's playing against his idol, someone who he's admitted, you know, he admired a lot growing up. About to score possibly the biggest win of his career, you'd have to say, and it's just, you know, Nadal's improved a little bit, and it's implanted that little bit of doubt in his head. So it was a shame to see for Korda, but also typical of Nadal at the same time. But all the way through the tournament, I think Nadal struggled a little bit. There is some suggestion that his foot injury has recurred a bit as well, which is a shame. But obviously he's been used to fighting that certain pain barrier for a while. He's dealt with that for a long period in his career, so it's not something that tends to hold him back too much. But in the end, I think in that match against Carlos Alcaraz, obviously he had a long break with the physio. Fantastic match, by the way. It was great to see those two play against each other again, especially now that Alcaraz is a little bit more developed in his own game. And it was, I think a lot of people looked at the draw and wanted that match to transpire, and we did get it, and it really did live up to the expectations. It was multiple swings of momentum, Nadal taking the first set, Alcaraz taking the second, and then just, you know, typical of Nadal yet again, just managing to regain focus, regain concentration, and graft his way through the match, through the pain barriers. I think it's one thing you've got to say for Nadal, whether you think he's the greatest tennis player of all time or not, and there's obviously always going to be a lot of debate there. He's probably the greatest fighter on a tennis court. His ability to deal with situations like that, I think, is absolutely unmatched, except maybe by Djokovic, but honestly. I think it says a lot for Rafa that he's come through to the final, and you'd say all tournament he hasn't really played that well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great point about how well he deals with playing through pain, or manages his game when it just isn't at his best for whatever reasons, whether that was to do with the foot, as you said, whether it was just general fatigue from the start of the year, or his game just not quite being there, but still to come through all those matches and come pretty close to still winning the title. I mean, it was an incredible effort, and as you say, pretty much unmatched as a fighter. So unfortunately, his winning streak was ended kind of in circumstances influenced by the injury at 20. I mean, still an unbelievable start to the year, which I don't think anyone saw coming after the injury struggles he had last season. 20 matches. I mean, Nadal's best ever start to the year. But he is going to be out, I think, for 4 or 6 weeks, likely to miss Monte Carlo and Barcelona. I mean, it's a big blow, looking like missing kind of the first part of the clay court season. What sort of impact do you think that could have?
I think Rafa's still going to be the favourite on clay if he does manage to get a couple in there to warm up. He does love Monte Carlo. I mean, he loves pretty much every clay tournament, and he was planning on missing Miami even before the injury set in to be fresh for Monte Carlo. He doesn't want to take any chances because he lost in the semi-final of Roland Garros last year to Novak Djokovic, and he was dealing with his foot injury. I think it came on quite badly in that match, but there is still. I mean, I think the third set that felt like a winner takes all set, and Djokovic, I think, won that on merit. You'd have to say, even if Nadal was dealing with injury, Djokovic won that set on merit. So he is maybe heading into this Roland Garros with a little bit more doubt than any other. And the injury is just going to add to that if he doesn't get in his full preparation. And I think he did want to get in pretty much a full clay court season to feel best prepared. There is some more doubt over him, but as long as he's fit, as long as he's firing, as long as he's got a couple of tournaments under his belt ahead of Roland Garros, he's still clearly the favourite. It affects his preparation, but I don't think it's devastating.
No, I would agree. And just staying on the men's draw before we move on to the women's side, we touched on Carlos Alcaraz, that amazing semi-final with Nadal, which for me was probably the match of the tournament, definitely the best match I watched in full. I mean, it was a big breakthrough for Alcaraz, reaching his first Masters 1000 semi-final. I think the youngest semi-finalist in Indian Wells for 34 years. I mean, just another sign of the amazing progress he's making. What did you make of Alcaraz's run? I mean, he had a couple of unbelievable wins as well against Bautista, Guten, Monfils, for the loss of only a handful of games against two quality players there. I mean, another massive run for Alcaraz.
Yeah, I think we've probably said it before. I don't know exactly what we've said on Alcaraz in the past, but I'll say it again anyway. He has established himself as the top talent in men's professional tennis when we're talking about the younger guys, the next gen. I think he is clearly ahead of anyone else in his age bracket right now. He's just proved it once again. Another extremely long run, coming up against some top players as well. I mean, it surprised me the manner of that win against Bautista Agut. I was expecting a much tougher test there. Obviously, Bautista Agut is another grafter on the tennis court. He'll make you hit more balls than you were planning on to win the point. He'll chase down everything. But Alcaraz just pretty much dispatched of him easily. That Gael Monfils match, the first set, an unbelievable level from both players, and Alcaraz just in the right moments has managed to win some important points, which is another big thing for his mental game as well. The fact that he is able to do that at such a young age. And then I think Monfils has maybe fallen apart a bit in the second set, you'd have to say, just derailed a bit, because it was a shame we didn't get a second set of the quality of the first there, because that was just an enthralling match. He's got everything as Alcaraz. He's got obviously unbelievable power, especially on the forehand side from the back of the court, but he's got that variety as well. His drop shot's unbelievable. He'll chase down everything. He's very much Rafa-esque in that aspect. His willingness to chase down every ball, his lack of mental dips as well. But then I don't particularly just want to compare him to Rafa, because he's got elements of a more Federer-like game and a more Djokovic-like game at times. I think it's just he's his own person, he's his own talent. And soon I think people want to call Carlos Alcaraz the next this, the next that. I think 10 years time, we're going to be talking about who's the next Carlos Alcaraz.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. And I mean, I agree. It doesn't exactly fit with one of the past great players' game. He definitely has elements from a few of them, like you say, with I think the mentality and the physicality, the speed he's got. You could definitely compare to Nadal, but I think, as you say, I mean, much more aggressive probably than Nadal was. Well, even now, but even certainly at that. At the same age, I mean, just incredibly aggressive player, as you mentioned, with the power he's got from the baseline, the ability 10 points with the drop shots, and even we saw him quite a bit the net and hitting some really impressive volleys there, which I mean is a fantastic sign at that age to already be looking strong in that department. And as you said, no real weaknesses that you can see. I think the only thing he can improve, which should be one of the easier things to improve, is his first serve placement. That's been he's a bit erratic with that at times, doesn't hit his spots that well, but I mean, he's got the power there, which is something that you can't teach. I mean, he's already hitting into the mid 130s at times, which is fantastic. It's just a case of improving that accuracy, which he should be able to do over time. And once he gets that, I mean, it'll be even tougher to break and even tougher to beat than he already is. So yeah, it's going to be great to see him in Miami, and then definitely in the clay court season. So before we move to the WTA side, are there any other players you want to touch on from the ATP event? Obviously, we had Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev all falling early, and out of the next gen, some slightly disappointing results from them. Rublev making the semi-finals, but still not quite being able to make that final step in a big event. What did you make of those players and anyone else?
Yeah, I really did fancy Rublev for that semi-final against Fritz ahead of the match. But it's just that typical Andrei Rublev thing. It's strange because when you think of the WTA, we're sometimes frustrated at the lack of consistency from certain players. The fact that so many players have unreal potential, but they struggle to just put the best tennis out there all the time. Andrei Rublev, you'd have to say, is one of the most consistent players on the tour, and that's why, Taylor Fritz has a Masters 1000 title, but Rublev's well ahead of Fritz. He's well ahead of Norrie, who's got Masters 1000 points in the rankings, because he's just so incredibly consistent. He'll win 250s, he'll win 500s, and he will go far in Masters, but he's struggling to step over that line and take that next step. And it's a shame to see, but I'm sure he'll get there eventually. Nick Kyrgios had a really good tournament. I think we saw some of the best of Kyrgios, but we also saw some of the worst yet again in that match with Rafa. I think the audible obscenity at set point, and yeah, the set had gone anyway, but to pretty much just give up on a set and to lose it by reacting to the crowd is really poor form. But it's good to see him playing again. It's good to see him seemingly enjoying his tennis at times again. And I'm excited to see what he does in Miami. And touch on Grigor as well. Run to the quarterfinals. It's once again, I say that typical Rublev thing. It's typical Dimitrov. He's got such a wonderful game, and I just wish he'd find it much more consistently, because when he got to the quarterfinals, I was looking at both halves of the draw, and I was saying, let's have a Nadal Dimitrov final. That'd be a wonderful thing to watch. Dimitrov, it does always feel a bit unsavory to compare him to Federer, but it's not saying he's as good as Federer. It's just his game looks very much aesthetically like Federer's. So Nadal Dimitrov final, I wanted to see it, but I don't know. I just feel Dimitrov's talented enough to beat Rublev, to beat players like Fritz, but he struggles to string it together across a whole tournament at the moment, and he struggles to even string good tournaments together. He's a bit of an enigma as a player in that he's got a lot of the tools there, a lot of talent there, but he really hasn't achieved what he should have done in his career.
Yeah, no, I think definitely makes some good points there. And just on Dimitrov, I agree with that. I mean, with how well he was playing, I managed to see a bit of him in the earlier rounds. I mean, so he played really well against John Isner from what I saw, which was, I mean, a tough match. Isner's got a great record at this tournament recently, and I mean, to beat him in straight sets, I thought, yeah, he looked like he did have a chance to go and reach the final. I mean, had him in that mix with Rublev and Fritz, but he just didn't really find his best in that Rublev match. And I would agree, just he does struggle to string it together sometimes, and I've seen it when a draw kind of opens up for him as well. It looks like a great opportunity. He doesn't quite take advantage of it, whether that's a mental thing. I mean, yeah, he's a fantastic athlete. He's had a fantastic career. One or two injuries which have held him back, but I do agree he should have definitely achieved more. Still has a bit of time on his side, though, being incredibly fit. I think definitely in that respect, one of the best players on tour. We have seen some players into the early and mid 30s have some of the best results. It could happen, but moving on to the WTA side, as we mentioned, Iga Swiatek continuing her fantastic start to the year, a second straight WTA 1000 title after winning in Doha, being Maria Sakkari in the final, and she's up to world number 2. Although that will become world number 1, which I haven't touched on at the start, and we'll come on to discuss. Ash Barty's today just announced retirement. Really shocking news at the age of 25. We'll come to discuss that. So Barty wasn't in Indian Wells. She'd announced earlier on that she wasn't going to play the Sunshine Double, but another fantastic win for Swiatek, just to signify the improvement she's made on hard courts. Now got a 5-1 record in WTA finals. I mean, she really does turn up in the biggest matches, being Maria Sakkari, who also had a fantastic tournament. Yeah, I mean, Kieran, what did you make of Swiatek's victory, continuing the winning streak that she's on, and being Sakkari in the final?
Yeah, I did my whole spiel about Rublev and consistency on the ATP side, and how sometimes players on the WTA side that have all the tools lack consistency. But I think the thing is with Swiatek is she maybe leads the way in that aspect. I think if you look at her results so far this year, I think semi-final in Australia, semi-final in, was it Adelaide, in the build-up to Australia, wins Indian Wells. She won another WTA 1000 at Qatar. I think Dubai is the only tournament really where she's fallen below expectations so far this season, and not at least reached a semi-final. And I think that's why with this morning's news about Barty, which we'll go on to discuss more, I think that's why she's probably my favourite to take that mantle of WTA number 1, because I think Contaveit's picked up recently. She's become more consistent in her results. I think Paula Badosa has had a few fairly consistent, decent runs, but I feel like Swiatek, I think as soon as she gets a couple more slams to her name as well, and it's not that she's inconsistent at the slam, she's consistently going to a decent round. It's just since breaking through and winning the French Open at a young age, she hasn't won another one. But I mean, at her age, you probably don't need to win another one yet. She's got plenty of time ahead of her. But I think as soon as she gets another slam to her name, she's pretty much just going to take the mantle as the leader in the WTA and the one to beat, as Barty has been, because you've got to say for Barty, that is one thing where if she turned up to a tournament, you'd back her to go far in it all the time. It has been a rare thing in the WTA recently, and that's why Barty has been number 1 for so long.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I agree with what you said on Swiatek having the potential to be the leader of the tour. Definitely one of the players who's going to be right up there as a world number 1 contender. I mean, up to number 2 already, and I think the key of that is now what we've seen from her on hard course. I mean, we know how great she is on clay, obviously winning the French Open and the Italian Open already. But I mean, just to see at the start of this year, and I think even signs of it towards the end of last season, I mean, just been from when I have watched her, been a lot more aggressive. I mean, which is really suited to the quicker surfaces. I mean, we know she still has the heavy top spin. She's a great athlete, moves extremely well. But yeah, I think that increased aggression has been really, really key. And I mean, she can be pretty ruthless as well in some of her performances. Just, seeing off quality opponents really routinely when she gets into a winning position. She doesn't let it slip away. And I mean, she did that in the final against Sakkari. Obviously, was seemed to be heavily affected by the wind, which was a factor in the final few days of the tournament on both sides. But she seemed to deal with it really well. I mean, we've seen with Nadal be one of the best wind players. I think, as everyone agrees, with the heavy spin, that the margin he plays with, the ability to adapt to the conditions. And Swiatek's obviously talked about how much of an idol Nadal is for her, and she's some elements of a game that does have similarities with Rafa, with the topspin forehand. I mean, she dealt with the wind extremely well in the final. I thought probably better than Sakkari, who also a player who can play with heavy spin, but is slightly more aggressive, maybe slightly less margin. She dealt with that really well. So yeah, just another example of the mindset she has, the great mentality she has to go with the incredible talent at a young age. So yeah, massively impressed again by Swiatek. So moving on to Sakkari, I mean, a fantastic run for her. I mean, the biggest final she's reached, got over that semi-final hurdle, which has been a real problem for her for a while, losing in, I think possibly lost 12 of the last 14 semi-finals, and she got a big win over Paula Badosa in the semis, who's the defending champion, but fell a bit short again in the finals. She still only won one WTA title. Overall, though, would have to say a really positive week. How do you assess it for Sakkari? I mean, a really great run, but again, not quite taking the final step to win, well, not just big titles, but titles.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, she's another one who I think all the tools are there in place. She just needs to find them in the right moments. And she should be winning tournaments. I think that's, even though you can never say, well, she rarely plays badly, she rarely performs below expectations, but she should be breaking through with the odd tournament win, because she's a fantastic player. But I mean, it is a positive step to get towards that final. It was a little bit of a shame, the manner of the defeat in that final. The fact that, especially in the second set, Swiatek just took control of it. But I think it is coming for Sakkari, and it might be one of those where, when it does finally come and that breakthrough is made and the mental hurdles removed, that she'll pop up with the odd tournament win, and she could win some really big tournaments. I think we are talking about a player that could definitely be a slam winner here when she gets just more tournament wins to her name and gets under that mental hurdle. I think she will go on and become more consistent in finals and semi-finals. So a shame for her in the final, but another really positive week, as you say.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think definitely, I mean, the fact she's made all these semi-finals, even though she doesn't have a good record in them, is a testament to her consistency, as you mentioned. And I agree. I think I'm more on the side that it's probably a matter of time. I think she's so good. I think, yeah, like you said, she's got all the tools. I don't really see anything in a game that's holding her back from taking that next step. I mean, I think she's absolutely a deserving top 10 player, possibly in the top 5 now. I mean, I think that's definitely how good she is, and seems to have made improvements pretty much consistently for the past couple of years. So yeah, I think she's definitely capable of winning big tournaments. Also on the WTA side, we had Simona Halep reaching the semi-finals, losing a really close match to Swiatek. That was possibly, even though she didn't win a set there, was as hard as Swiatek was pushed. Halep having set points, I think, in that first set and serving for it. It was a resurgent tournament for Halep. I think a first quarterfinal, a big event, either a WTA 1000 or a Grand Slam since the 2021 Australian Open. Obviously, she was held back by the injury she suffered in Rome last year, which then kept her out of Roland Garros and Wimbledon. She'd had a bit of a tough period for her standards. So what do you make of Halep bouncing back here and kind of re-emerging as a top player and a contender for these titles?
Well, I think WTA Tour is a lot stronger for having Simona Halep. She's not only a factor in WTA tournaments, she's a factor in the slams as well. She's won a few of them, so it's good to have her back. I think, especially with Serena, we don't know where she's at, whether she'll be back. I think she will be back for at least a swan song, but with her pretty much stepping away from most of the tour at the moment, I think to have one of not that Halep isn't that old, she's 30 years old, she's got years left, but one of the older heads, at least in the WTA tour, to have her around provide a real test for these younger players that are breaking through, making breakthroughs like your Swiatek's and Badosas, then it's only going to be fantastic. It's only going to help develop the tour because she's a brilliant player. As I've already mentioned, a multi-slam champion. Well, two, but multi. So, and it was a shame when her injury came along, actually, because it wasn't that long after winning Wimbledon, really, that she first started having these injury struggles that she struggled to bounce back from. So she was maybe set to go on and win a few more when it came on. So I think she's definitely not down and out yet, and she's proved that by reaching the semi-final in Indian Wells. If she keeps the fitness, keeps playing, and keeps making long runs, I think we'll end up coming on to discuss her a lot more in our predictions for tournaments, and even the slams again.
Yeah, I think so. She's definitely capable of winning more slams and on the hard courts, which we haven't seen her do yet, but she has been in final of the Australia Open. So yeah, great to see Halep back. Is there anyone else you want to touch on from the WTA tournament in Indian Wells before we move on to the general news points and Miami?
Well, in general, I'd just say I already mentioned her a bit, but another strong run from Paula Badosa, the defending champion. Actually, I think there will have been a little bit of disappointment, especially after getting back into that semi-final, to not be able to go on and defend her crown. But she can be very pleased with a run to the semi-final again. There's nothing wrong with a run like that at all. But I would say, weirdly, for the WTA, it's been a tournament that's transpired pretty much as you'd expect. There hasn't been too many shock results. If you look at the final four or even the final eight, you'd have gone, yeah, actually, I could have seen that before the tournament being the final eight. Harriet Dart probably deserves a shout coming into it as a qualifier and getting all the way to the fourth round. Lost to a very good on the day Madison Keys in that fourth round, but a strong result, especially as a qualifier. Beat Alina Svitolina in the second round as well in 3 sets. So, more promising news for British tennis there, another young player breaking through for us. So I think that pretty much sums up my thoughts on the WTA tournament at Indian Wells, an enjoyable but weirdly predictable tournament.
Yeah, I think that's true. So we'll move on to other big talking points in the tennis world, kind of away from Indian Wells. And as we mentioned, Ash Barty today announcing a shock retirement from tennis at the age of 25. I mean, 3-time Grand Slam champion. Last tournament was winning the Australian Open, winning a home slam for the first time. I suppose not a bad final tournament if it is to be the last one she plays, assuming there isn't a comeback. I mean, just how surprised are you by this news?
I couldn't believe it at all. 25 years old and absolutely at the top of the game. But I think the key thing here is, if anyone hasn't listened to the little interview that she's done on her Instagram, that she's put out there, I think that's a much better way of hearing about her motivations behind retiring and understanding her point of view. I mean, I'll go over the point she makes now, but I think the key thing is you listen to it for yourselves, because it is an interesting insight, and I'm only going to corrupt it a little bit and miss certain things out. But I think the key takeaways was that she feels like she's achieved everything she wanted to. Like, even though the career Grand Slam is only a hardcore tournament win away, and she's already won a Grand Slam on hardcore. So I don't think it's clearly not part of the thinking. She won Wimbledon, and she mentioned that after Wimbledon, that was the key thing that she's always wanted to achieve since she was, a kid taking up tennis. And after she did that, there was a little bit of a lull and a little bit of a feeling that might be her done. But then the Australian Open came along, and there was that desire there to win her home tournament, and she's got that done, and she just doesn't feel the drive for it anymore. I think it's long been said that she's hinted to it in the past, and I think she's pretty much come out and said it now, that life on tour, you know, she doesn't really enjoy it that much. She may enjoy the tennis, but the long periods away from her family, she tends to struggle with the long periods away from home. So yeah, just not in. She's not really got the drive to live that life anymore on the tour, and you know, fair play to her. I think it's beyond Borges to go out as a multi-slam champion, still at the top of your game, but you know, just maybe I think it's incredible just saying I've achieved everything I want, so I don't have another point to prove. I'm just gonna settle back and enjoy the things in life that are important to me, my family. So having heard her speak, as upset as I am to lose her from the tour, because she is a wonderful, wonderful player, I feel like I understand the motivations, and fair play to her.
Absolutely. As you say, I mean, it is hard to comprehend without kind of looking at her motivations, but as you say, it's absolutely her decision. She's got the reasons for it, and she's explained it well. But I mean, yeah, it definitely is surprising to see someone in their prime, being the defending champion at two of the slams, Australian Open and Wimbledon, the world number one. It's you're right to compare it to Bjorn Borg. That's probably the closest thing we've had. I think Borg was 26. I mean, had been the dominant player for the previous few years. But I mean, yeah, as you said, Barty, she feels she's accomplished everything that she wanted to do. And I mean, she's had an incredible career. I mean, winning 3 Grand Slams, being world number one for a significant number of weeks. A fantastic career. I mean, I think if she'd wanted to, if the motivation had been there, I mean, she definitely could have won a lot more. But she's come to the end. I mean, people would have said the same about Borg. How many Grand Slams could Borg have won if he played for another 5 or 10 years? And I think I remember Mats Wilander saying after the Australian Open this year, he thinks she definitely could have won in the double figures of Grand Slams and got that career Grand Slam. And I'll probably agree with the level we've seen from her in recent years. But yeah, I mean, just a fantastic champion. She's definitely going to be missed, but hope she enjoys her retirement, and I'm sure what else she's going to move on into in life. It's been fantastic to watch her.
And another good thing as well that I saw pointed out is the very last shot she's hit on, you know, in official tennis competition is a cross court passing shot winner to win the Australian Open, and it's a wonderful shot. I went back and watched it actually this morning. It's a wonderful shot, and to say that was the final shot in your tennis career, I mean, it's just brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah, it's definitely a special way to go out. I mean, a bit like Pete Sampras' last moment on the tennis court was winning the US Open, and winning, his last match was winning a Grand Slam as well at his home slam. So in that sense, it's a fantastic way to go out, and definitely it's only comparable to probably players like Borg, who we talked about, Justine Henin and Kim Clijsters, both retired early as well, then came back. Henin then retired again, fairly young, and probably Sampras, although he was 30, I think maybe could have won some more. People thought was still right up there at the time, obviously going out winning the slam. But yeah, it's been fantastic to watch Barty while we have in the past few years, and wish her all the best. It's on to some of the other talking points, a bit of a not quite as positive one to talk about, but with the ongoing Russian invasion of Ukraine, the ITF, ATP, and WTA, tennis's major governing bodies have announced sanctions on Russian and Belarusian players in the past few weeks. We didn't cover in the last podcast. So Russian and Belarusian players have been allowed to continue competing on the ATP and WTA tours, but not under the country's flags or names. And the ITF have banned Russia and Belarus from the Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup and all ITF team competitions. So Kieran, what are your thoughts on the sanctions that have been imposed? I mean, there's been some suggestions from some that Russian and Belarusian players should be banned, given the country's roles in the war, in the invasion. But what do you make of it?
I think obviously the invasion of Ukraine is just it's a completely heartbreaking situation when you see the way people's lives have been devastated by it. For political kind of ideals behind it as well. It's just completely deplorable, really. And sanctions do need to be made. I think, I mean, the leader of that country seems pretty keen to keep going despite whatever sanctions are being put in place. I don't think sanctions on Russian tennis players have forced his hand at all, sadly. I don't know what the final straw would be, but it hasn't been that. It's a horrible situation. And my heart goes out to Ukraine, and also my heart goes out to the Russian players as well at the moment, because I think Andrei Rublev especially, he put out a very clear anti-war message, and you could see that, I mean, the look that he made into the camera as he wrote on the camera, "No war, please." You could see that he was quite distressed by the situation. I think Medvedev's promoted an anti-war message, not quite as strongly as Rublev, but, he has also denounced the war as well. And I think the key thing here is Andrei Rublev, Daniil Medvedev, they're not to blame and they don't support it. So they don't deserve to lose years of their careers off the back of it. As strongly as you do want to sanction Russia, these guys aren't to blame. I mean, Medvedev was close to playing under the French flag as a junior. He spent a lot of his career developing in France. I think he attended a French academy and lived a lot of his life there. So, I think just the country that you're born shouldn't dictate whether you're allowed to compete in professional tennis or not. I think as long as you're a good person, you always act in good faith on the tour. But the flag that you come from shouldn't hamper your career, really. As long as you promote an anti-war message, because I mean, it'd be a shame to lose them, and like I say, they're not to blame at all. Russian athletes aren't to blame for the situation at all. It's just sad, and I just want to see an end to it as soon as possible. And I know it looks like an end isn't happening anytime soon, but it's awful to see. And I actually think the actions in place are very good. To ban the team from competing in team competitions, I think, is fair. And to remove kind of a Russian flag, to say you can't play under the Russian flag, you can play under a neutral flag, kind of promotes that, we don't want Russia represented in our sport. We're all right for Russian people that are good people to play in our sport, but we don't want Russia represented in our sport right now. I think the actions are from the ITF and the ATP, the WTA as well. I think that they send quite a strong message without unfairly removing Russian and Belarusian players from competition.
Definitely, yeah, and I'd echo absolutely what you said about the war, the invasion. It's a heartbreaking, tragic situation, and absolutely my heart and my thoughts go out to everyone who's affected by it in Ukraine and affected by it in any way, directly or indirectly. It's a terrible situation, and I'll totally agree that I think the sanctions that have been imposed are fair. I think banning the Russian team from team competitions, I think, and as you said, removing the flag, I think that's fair. And for me, I agree. I don't think that Russian players should be banned. As you mentioned, Rublev especially promoting an anti-war message, but Medvedev as well. When asked about it, I don't think these players should be banned. In an individual sport, that I don't think they've done anything wrong. I don't really see what preventing them from playing is going to do when you look at the sanctions that from governments that have been imposed on Russia, which haven't, as you mentioned, haven't deterred the invasion so far. So I don't think banning the likes of Medvedev, Rublev, and then any other Russian players would be a fair response to this. I think they deserve to be able to continue playing. The final piece of news before we move on to quickly preview the Miami Open is Novak Djokovic has returned to world number one after Medvedev lost in the third round of Indian Wells, had to reach at least the quarterfinals to retain the rankings. So Djokovic back on top of the ATP rankings, at least for now, after briefly losing it to Medvedev. Medvedev could claim it back if he reaches the semi-finals in Miami, so want to watch out for there. But Djokovic looks like he is going to be back next month. It seems like he's going to be able to play at the Monte Carlo Masters and also the French Open with some French government restrictions about COVID-19 passes, vaccine passes being lifted. So barring like further changes, it looks like we're going to see Djokovic at those two big events, particularly the French Open. I think that's a great news for the tournament and the sport that we're going to be able to see him defend his title there. So moving on to the Miami Open, which just got underway on the WTA side. ATP event begins today as we're recording. What are you looking ahead? Which sort of players are you looking at that you think could do well in those tournaments, Kieran, possibly based on what we've seen in Indian Wells?
Yeah, well, obviously a lot of doubt around Taylor Fritz participating at the moment. I think it'd probably be smart to say, I've got a big 1,000 points in the bag, so I'll take it off, rest his ankle. So it's a shame that we don't get to see him go again, but I understand that. So, I mean, on other people from the Indian Wells draw going into Miami, there's intriguing players all around, isn't there? It's actually a very interesting draw. I think it's stacked on the top half of the draw. Weirdly, it's stacked on the top half of the draw, and then the bottom half, you're looking at that, and no disrespect, but a few less interesting ties and less players lined up, which, considering the same amount of seeds go into both sides of the draw, I don't know why it's transpired like that. Carlos Alcaraz obviously looks to go again and build on another very strong week. He's at an age where he can go all the way to the semi-final one week and pretty much go straight back at it and perform excellently again, I feel. So I'll be keeping a keen eye on his progress. I think what I would like to see is Stefanos Tsitsipas kind of step up and go far. He's, a little bit of an indifferent start to the year for him so far. There's been some signs there, but he's performed below expectations in a lot of tournaments as well. So would kind of like to see him, especially as quite a high seed, number 3 or number 4, something like that. If he could go far and kind of just get back on, get the ball rolling again, build on what was in parts an encouraging year last year, start to build on that a bit more. Daniil Medvedev, obviously, is another one who pretty much the same goes for. He hasn't won a tournament yet this year, although he's final in Australia, semi-final. In Acapulco, he's gone far, but really did underperform against expectations in Indian Wells. Although Gael Monfils is never a player you want to see early in your draw, it's still, Medvedev is always the favourite to win that match, and to not win it was an underperformance on his part. He's lost in the world number 1, so I don't know. I feel like it's time for him to go out, win it, get a tournament win under his name, kind of return to the world number 1 and say that, I am here to try and keep this. Djokovic is coming back. Well, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go toe-to-toe with Djokovic all the way. Andy Murray's position in the draw has me very intrigued. Obviously, his recent form has tended to be second round loser after coming through a difficult first round match. He's got Federico Delbonis in the first round, a winnable one that I'd actually say Murray is the favourite there, although he does have a 0-1 record against him. But I'm scared now because that had set up a second round with Daniil Medvedev, which is a match I'd love to see, by the way, as much as Murray isn't himself right now. I would love to see a Medvedev-Murray match. But I'm starting to think now that I'd be happy for Murray to get to the second round and lose in the second round. This will be the one tournament where he doesn't even make the second round. I'm actually quite nervous for that. So There's interesting ties all around. It's a great draw. Kyrgios Rublev a possible second round as well. So I'm sure it's going to be an excellent tournament.
Absolutely, yeah. There's a lot of interesting potential matchups in the draw. As you mentioned, I think the top half definitely has more of them, more of those interesting matchups. Like that Medvedev Murray is definitely a match I would like to see. I think it could be a really interesting matchup. I mean, we've seen Medvedev at times struggle against players who are great defensive players. Murray can use the slice. That's been something else Medvedev has struggled with. I'm not saying Murray is going to win that. But I would back him to come through double bonus, and I think that could definitely be an interesting match. If Medvedev's not at his very best, I would give Murray a chance, which we have seen from Medvedev recently. But I would probably back Medvedev to bounce back and have a strong tournament here. If I had to pick anyone to win it, I would go with Medvedev. It's a tough one though, given he struggled again in Indian Wells, although I think is just a tournament which he has really struggled in. Maybe a bit of it being his first tournament as world number one could be a bit of a factor. But definitely the top half is stacked. Tsitsipas, as you mentioned, Alcaraz, Hurkacz, the defending champion in there, Shapovalov, and also Bautista Agut in Medvedev's section. He's someone he's I think lost all 3 matches against in the past, so not easy for Medvedev, but I'd possibly just go with Medvedev. First of all, who do you pick as a winner on the ATP side, and then kind of moving into the WTA, which players do you see having a good run there?
Yeah, I think I'd pick Medvedev as well, just because, like I say, he'll be keen to get a title under his belt this year. He's, I mean, it's overdue really for a player of his quality. You know, briefly holding the number 1 ranking this year, he's been consistently one of the best. I mean, you'd have to say at least the second best player on the tour for the last year, and maybe even a bit longer. So it's strange to see him underperform a bit. We're not really used to him underperforming, except maybe on clay. We're used to him being at least very solid and then breaking through with title wins fairly regularly. So I do feel like he's overdue one, and I feel like he'll be keen to regain that number 1 ranking and to start proving himself again. So I back Medvedev for the men's title in Miami. The women's tournament, I mean, you're looking for Swiatek to build on a good week. You're looking for Maria Sakkari to build on a good week on the back of Indian Wells. Annette Kontaveit in the draw. Like I say, she's been fairly consistent. I think her winning percentage over the last 52 weeks or so is up above 70%. So that shows that she's added a lot of consistency to her game. She's always had she's long had a solid game, but she's starting to be a bit more consistent with results now. So I'd be interested to see how she goes on. Looking out for Raducanu in the draw as well. Obviously, she's had her struggles recently, but you know, I'm sick of people suggesting she's a flash in the pan as if she's 18 years old or whatever. She might be 19 now, I'm not sure, but as if she's at an age where she should be winning every week. I think it's ridiculous. You know, I think her time will come. Obviously, it felt like her time was here after the US Open win, but it was a shock win, and you know, she's still got fantastic aspects to her game. I don't get how anyone can see the quality of player that she is and think that she was just a flash in the pan. Like I say, 18 years old, she's got a lot of developing still to do. And speaking of another one with a lot of developing still to do, Leylah Fernandez had a fairly solid week in Indian Wells. I think it was the 4th round, or I think it was the 4th round, wasn't it? Yeah. So a decent tournament for her, and also still young, still developing. You know, we shouldn't be expecting these players to go out and win tournaments every week, but another solid run for her would be fantastic, just building on that potential that she has. You know, if you're looking at a quarterfinal, semi-final, even maybe a semi-final, that'd be a fantastic result. Sabalenka in the draw as well. I haven't touched on Sabalenka. Obviously, one of the players affected by these sanctions. She doesn't get to play under the Belarusian flag right now, but she still gets to play. And, always a tough player when you see her in a draw. I don't think any players are happy to see her in a section. She goes into this as the number 1 seed as well. So definitely among the favourites for the tournament.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Sabalenka hasn't had a great start to the year, but I think she'll probably might enjoy the conditions a bit more in Miami. I think it's a bit faster than Indian Wells. I mean, she has been having, I think, still in Indian Wells, she had some issues with the double faults. She lost to Jasmine Paolini, which was a bit of a surprising loss, but that Paolini, I think, a player who's had some decent results recently. But so I wouldn't be surprised if Sabalenka bounces back here, and as you say, as the top seed, not a bad section of the draw either from what I've seen. And also, just following up on Raducanu, I agree. I thought there was some positive signs from her in Indian Wells. Got a good win and then didn't play badly, I thought, against Petra Martic. Obviously served for the match. I mean, Petra Martic, I know, ranked outside the top 80 at the time, but I mean, it's definitely a player who's far better than that, far more talented. We've seen her in the top 20, I think. So by no means a bad loss, and I think he hasn't been able to play that much at the start of the year, Raducanu, partially due to injury and illness. So I think once we see her get a run of tournaments, then we can have a fair assessment. As you said, still so young, and I mean, there's going to be an adjustment period for a player who wins the Grand Slam, surprisingly, to say the least. So I don't think we can read too much into what we've seen so far, but positive signs even, I would say. And really an exciting group of players there. Raducanu in with Fernandez, who you've mentioned, and also Coco Gauff. It's going to be fantastic to see them again here, how far they can go, and also moving forward on the clay. But definitely an interesting an event on the WTA side. I think another tough one to predict, but I would probably, I think I said Annette Kontaveit when we did the last podcast looking ahead to Indian Wells and Miami. I'll stick with Kontaveit to win Miami. I mean, as you said, fantastic results she's had over the past year, especially on hard courts, winning a number of titles, going deep consistently. And I think she should do well here in Miami. I'll probably just go with Kontaveit. And as you mentioned, Swiatek, I wouldn't be surprised to see her have another good run, continuing her winning streak. But who would you pick on the WTA side as you winner?
I'm going to go a bit out. Well, it's not a massive outsider, number 9 seed, but just a little bit different. And just because we haven't touched on it yet, and I feel like we should do, Danielle Collins, obviously, Australian Open finalist this year, played that match against Ash Barty, Ash Barty's final ever match. So, a slam final this year. She had that was a great way to start off, and I feel like fairly fast hard courts suit her game quite well as well. So I feel like a home tournament as well, she might be able to go on and win it.
Yeah, definitely an interesting one. I think the first we'll see Collins since the Australian Open, so it's it's going to be great to see. So that brings us to the end. I've enjoyed reviewing Indian Wells, looking ahead to Miami, covering the other talking points. It's been a good podcast. We hope everyone enjoys the Miami Open. Hopefully it'll be as entertaining as Indian Wells, which definitely delivered. And we'll be back following the Miami Open with another podcast. So thanks very much as always, Kieran, and thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you soon.